There's two pieces to this. Number one, the Comcast Time Warner cable merger, and number two, this net neutrality. Well, actually, three pieces. I guess the FCC saying that they're going to rewrite their net neutrality rules. FCC headed up by Mr. Thomas Wheeler, former partner at Core Capital Partners, and it goes through. I've got an entire page here of all the companies that this guy has been on the board of or has lobbied for, and the $19 million he made doing it before he became the head of the FCC, which is rather mind-boggling. Craig Aaron, the CEO and president of Free Press, freepress.net. Craig, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me back, Tom. Always a pleasure.
So, Netflix is saying that they're seeing a 14% over the last 30 days decrease in their throughput speed to their customers. One of the people who works here on this program has Verizon Fios at home, and it has just in the last 30 days. This is the super expensive, super high speed, 100 Mbps service. It has gotten so bad that Netflix shows are stuttering now for this person. I've noticed in the last month on two different ISPs, consumer ISPs that I have at home, that when I try to stream or get large quantities of content, things are slowing down. And then when I go to a VPN, that they're actually shutting me down. What the hell's going on out there in the internet?
Well, there's a lot of shady activity going on deep in the internet infrastructure in places it's very hard for the average consumer to see. And since these companies very often won't talk about what's going on, we don't know exactly what's going on, but it seems pretty clear that's what's happening is at the level of what's been known as peering. So this is the backbone of the internet where big pipes from the company that carry traffic for companies like Netflix or Amazon meet up with the big pipes that take all that traffic to your home from places like Verizon and Comcast. And increasingly, indications are, although a lot of this is buried in these non-disclosure engineering agreements, but the indications are that the cable companies and the phone companies like Verizon that offer a television product are really trying to get these other companies to pay them more to carry their traffic. And when they won't do it, they're not opening up as much space. They're not opening up the ports in the internet. It's sort of like if you were going to Costco and you paid your $50 to get your Costco card and you expected to be able to buy, a bushel of apples, and they said, "Oh, sorry, we don't have apples anymore. They wouldn't fit into our loading dock." It's if you
Right.
imagine that scenario, that's kind of what's happening on the internet. And of course, the important thing to remember here is you as an internet customer of one of these companies like Comcast or Verizon are already paying. You're already paying them your $80, $90, $100 a month because you want to watch Netflix, because you want to watch these other services, because you want to run your business. And it shouldn't be a situation where they can double dip and charge twice. They don't actually have a capacity problem. They're just trying to exploit their role as gatekeepers to make even more money.
Right. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, which is where they come to me and they say, you've got our basic $80 a month plan. If you want to watch streaming video, that's an extra $10 a month. If you want to watch a porn site, that's an extra $20 a month. If you want to, visit the news sites over at the New York Times or Financial Times or Huffington Post, that's an extra $5 a month. If you want, the menu like they have on their cable systems.
Well, that's just it, Tom. That's the model. That's their model. That's their vision for the future of the internet. Now, that's never the way the internet has worked. That's not what has made the internet, such an unrivaled place for free speech and democratic participation and economic innovation. But if you're a cable company, that's a model you're very, very familiar with. You like an internet where you get to pick and choose the channels for people, where you get to decide which sites and services get the fastest speeds, which are slowed down, which work, and which don't load at all. That is a model they like.
Okay, so here we have the president and chief executive officer of Cellular Telecommunications and of the Cellular Telecommunications and Internet Association, the CTIA, from 1992 to 2004. This guy was the president and CEO of the trade industry group that was representing these ISPs and whatnot. He is now the head of the FCC, Tom Wheeler. Could that have something to do with the fact that with the reason why the FCC won't simply declare that ISPs are common carriers like phone companies are?
I guess it's somewhat too early to judge, but I think you certainly can draw the connections. Tom Wheeler, before he was the head of the cell phone industry lobby several decades ago, he was the head of the cable industry lobby. So this is a guy who goes way back in that regard. But I think it's maybe a little more complicated than that, and the problems run even deeper than Tom Wheeler into really the whole way that Washington makes media and telecom policy, and they are gripped in what I would call a can't-do attitude when it comes to doing things that millions and millions of Americans, the vast majority of Americans, want to see happen. They just want to be protected. They just want to go online and have choices. Right. And yet Washington has become paralyzed because of the lobbying and influence industry that Tom Wheeler used to be part of, right, from taking any of these steps, and they are, at the FCC, almost afraid of their own shadow. I mean, they took a big loss in court a couple weeks ago. They're trying to pretend it was actually a victory. They're trying to paste together the shreds of authority that was left to them in this decision instead of actually taking the kind of decisive action that we need to see at the FCC. So they have basically kicked the can down the road again, and even though so many Americans, millions and millions, have been demanding net neutrality, demanding they protect the free and open internet, they continue to take a very circuitous route, very weak demonstration of their power, and the companies, they smell the fear, and so they're being very aggressive in what they're doing, trying to keep the FCC from doing what most of us need them to do, which is actually look out for us, actually protect us online from the abuse of these big corporations. So the fight is far from over, but it was certainly discouraging to see the FCC, instead of moving to do what we told them to do, which is reclassify broadband under the law, treat it as what it obviously is, a telecommunications and transmission service. Everybody understands that's what it is, and that it needs to be treated differently from websites. But again, they're studying it. They're doing this extended process. And unfortunately, that's certainly not good news for the future of the internet.
Well, and this comes back to the power of big money in Washington, D.C., which gets us back to the Supreme Court discovering in the Buckley case that the First Amendment protects money, and that corporations are protected. And then in the First National Bank versus Bellotti case 2 years later, discovering that the 14th Amendment protects corporations, and then bringing all that together, of course, in Citizens United. This is craziness.
And I think it plays out in the media telecom world in ways that people think of, oil companies and tobacco companies. But look, these guys in the cable and phone world spend as much as any of those guys when it comes to influence in Washington. And the revolving door spins nowhere quite like it does at the FCC, where you've got, the current chairman of the FCC used to be the top cable lobbyist. The top cable lobbyist used to be chairman of the FCC. And that's what we're going up against every day.
Right. Michael Powell. Right.
That's right.
Yeah, son of Colin Powell. He used to be the head of the FCC. Now he's the head cable lobbyist. It's nuts. It should be illegal. It should be a crime, but it's not. So, Craig, we have a minute left. What do we do? The FCC is not elected. How do we influence them?
Well, we got to organize, Tom. We've seen it again and again, the fight against SOPA PIPA, even making net neutrality an issue, the pushback against unchecked spying and surveillance. When millions and millions of Americans get together, when they put pressure on an agency like the FCC that is not used to being in the public eye, they can get good results. And we can still have that happen here. But it's going to take some unprecedented organizing, involvement, pressure on Capitol Hill, maybe direct action around the FCC. It's an organizing problem. It's a political problem. We have to treat it like that, and we have to raise hell.